Well, we've heard about some of the implications of the war that is currently happening, but also some of the opportunities, amazingly, that God has brought about through the awful things that have happened for the gospel. And of course, this isn't the first war in our continent, and actually not the first war that has happened in Europe in the lifetime of many of us here. And so I wanted to just invite Samuil up for a few moments to ask him a few questions about his experience of war. And what he learnt through that. Some of us met for a time of prayer immediately after the outbreak of war in Ukraine, and Samuil shared a little bit with some of us on a Zoom meeting, and so I said it'd be lovely to share just a bit more widely, so come and join me, brother. So as you experienced war in the Balkans, what are some of the things that you learnt through that time?
Thank you very much, Michael. Can you hear me? Yes. Unfortunately, from 1991 to 2000, we had a lot of wars in Serbia and in that region. Maybe some of you are younger, you don't remember that, but there was a very hard time for many of us and for our countries. But most of the evangelical Christians who are in Serbia now became Christians in those years. And we had a small revival in the 90s during the war. In 1991, I became a Christian. Just war started in Slovenia and Croatia, and then my wife ran away from the war. She with her mother and 4 kids. In 1992, she ran away from Sarajevo with the last bus, and then after that, and father stayed for 4 years in Sarajevo as a Serb. She didn't know if he was alive, and she became a Christian there. And we met. I told her, if we didn't go through this war, I will never probably meet you. God always give good things through the hard situations. And when I became a Christian in 1991, then I went in army in 1992. And it was very strange because it's army. You must go in army, and then they sent us to Montenegro on the border with Croatia. That used to be the same country, and that was very hard for me. You know, I was a young Christian going into the army, and I made a stupid mistake. I brought a Bible translation from Catholic Church from Croatia, which was better translation than Serbian one. And I brought that in an army box there, and they check I have a Croatian Bible. And then among 2,000 soldiers, they said, 2 soldiers come to talk with the security general. You know, I said, why me? And they knew everything, that I was going in the church and everything. But it was a good opportunity. I shared the gospel with him 1 hour. And I told him how God changed my life, why Jesus died on the cross. And then this security guy, general, he told me, I like you. If you have any problem, he said, if you have any problem, please let me know. I would like to protect you. But then it was very strange because we were in a war. And then I was reading a Gideon New Testament. And every soldier said, hey, can you give me? I said, no, I have only one. Then I called one missionary there. Because in those times, in 92, there was only 1 missionary in Montenegro and 2 believers. And I didn't know. And I found the phone and I called him. I actually jumped the fence from the army illegally just to find where is the church, because I was missing a church fellowship. And I called, said, where is the church building? When is the youth meeting? When is EU's meeting? He said, it's only me and 2 believers. You will be number 4. And I was believer number 4 in Montenegro in 1992. Danny, there is some history before you came in Montenegro. And for me it was like eye-opening, and I got this desire for evangelism, for mission in army. And I start to share the gospel with a few soldiers who were afraid. 3 of them became believers. And then God was using a lot of opportunities. Like one night, because I was working on the border with Croatia, on the radio signals and connecting with the telephones, all telephone centrals, and reading Bible from midnight to 6 o'clock. And 2 o'clock, but you can hear on the radio station people who are in a war, they're talking, like Muslims with Croats, with Serbs. They're talking, making jokes. And one Muslim person said, we Muslims are better than Christians. Quran is older than Bible. And I said, what? You know, then I turned the radio station and I said, who said the Quran is older by? He said, myself, Muhammad. I said, Muhammad, what did you have from history? You know, and then I start to share the gospel. 2 hours using army radio station. Then, then while the conversation is going, the Serbian people say, "Yo, you kill him, good." Then Croats say, "You're right," And then the general of the union, around the 4 o'clock in the morning, he called my captain and said, "You have some soldier idiot. He's using radio station to talk about God." The captain is supposed to come at 6 o'clock, but because general wake him up, he come to 5 o'clock to the union there, to the hill there, and he enter in my room. Said, "Samuel, what are you doing?" I said, said, "What about Bible? What about Quran? Don't use the radio station." And he took off the radio station from the room, and soldiers never had the chance to have a radio station. but God gave a lot of opportunities in a conflict time. That you can share the gospel. It's very hard and painful, and it's a big challenge for us to discuss politics. Now in Serbia, we have, and by the way, I want to greet, in my church, I have about 20 graduate students from SSH who are part of my church in Serbia now. And the staff workers, and they send greetings. I told them, they show me pictures from Lindsay from 30 years ago. Looks much more nicer than now. And they really need the healing. Like we had one international conference last week, and one Russian engineer, he was crying there. He said, "This is the first international conference Christian that we felt that we are part of that." So, and then after the army time, I wanted to go to Australia to visit my grandmother. Everything was blocked. In '94, during the war time, I joined a first small group of EUs, and then Jürgen Spies came in '94. Is Jürgen here? Or he's with academics. I saw him. He came there, and he was because the borders were closed. It was very hard to come, and the general secretary told him on the time, "You came alive, but there is possibility you can be arrested or killed." And he was a little, it's not good welcome for the mission speaker, and then he was there, and then during that time in '94, I got a calling from God to working with students in the war. I became a Christian during the wartime. I got a call from God to work with students in 1994. Then I met my wife. She went to study medicine there, and it was very hard time for us. But it was we felt God's presence, and we felt that God's opportunity we can share the gospel. Charity organizations of evangelical churches, sometimes they supply more food than Red Cross in Serbia, and a lot of people became a Christian. In '99 we had also challenge. We have a NATO bombing for 78 days of Serbia. I was there. We're living on a 28th floor. In a big building. It was very dangerous to be there. 5 minutes, 3 rockets hit the place where I was standing 5 minutes before. A lot of things like that. But God gave us a lot of opportunity with the student work there. The students were together, and we were able to share the gospel. It was very. Our students were involved, like in sheltering. We were organizing people in shelter, and there was a lot of opportunities. Like everybody was taking some medicine to calm down, and then they saw us more peaceful than other people, and they asked me, "Samuel, which kind of medicine you're taking?" I said, "Well," I said, "You are so peaceful. You're so and then I said, "It's a prayer," and then we had a lot of opportunity to share the gospel. So trust God. It's hard situation. My wife lost mother when the war stopped. My wife's mother died of age of 49, heart attack because of the stress of the war, alone with the 4 kids. It was hurting us as a family a lot, but God was with us, and we serve God, and God, out of this hard situation, many good things happening. I will not probably, if we didn't were in this situation, I will probably not join the ministry. I will be in Australia. Who knows where I will be? But through the hardship, God was with us. We prayed, we shared the gospel, and that was the most fruitful years for the evangelical churches in last 30 years, in the 90s during the war. So we are praying for our brothers and sisters in Ukraine. And I was 5 years ago there. Marina organized a mission week in Kiev. We are praying for brothers and sisters in Russia. We should be careful not to go in political talks. We should maintain our Christian unity, and we should hold to our common denominator, which is Jesus Christ. So we need to pray. We need to be bold. We need to support our brothers and sisters, and use every opportunity that gospel can be advanced. Like Paul said in Philippians chapter 1, verse 12, he said, I am in prison, it's hard, but the gospel is advancing. So let's pray that this situation in Europe and in Ukraine, Russia, that the gospel will be in advance.
Brilliant. Samuil, thank you so much.